Hello friends, family and strangers on the internet. Today I just wanted to do a video tour of my old sketchbooks from when I was little. I think when you look through an artist's old sketchbooks you can really see how they've progressed over time. And these are just the earliest pictures I've kept of my art, and they kick off from like 2001 when I was just 9 years old, and I loved Sailor Moon. I lived and breathed it, and it's practically all that I drew. I got into anime at a young age, but at the time I'd only ever read the word and never heard anyone say it, so I used to call it anime. As a side note, I also used to beg my mum to buy me more plastic wallets. Some kids want sweets, and all I could ever have enough of was plastic wallets as a child. And I would just draw on anything I could get my hands on, just scrap pieces of paper if that's all we had, because it's all I used to do. I would lay all my folders of printed pictures with like Nickelodeon on the TV, and I would just draw. Oh, I had a slightly older friend as well named Claire, who would draw far better than me. And she used to sign her work with a special signature, like a little moon on it. And I obviously wanted to be as professional as she was, so I started signing my pictures with this totally cool logo. So cool. This little masterpiece was also a picture of me and my friend Tanya. As kids we would play Charmed, and I became obsessed with like witchy things when I was little, so I drew us in these totally hip and happening outfits as our characters. And I was obviously Piper because she was the best one. The thing is, when I was young, I would do so much copying from pictures I printed from the internet that I wasn't really building my base skills. I wasn't learning anatomy or colour or how light plays a role in a picture, but I didn't know at the time that these were things that I would need. When I would draw my own pictures like this one, I would often do weird things that I thought all artists were supposed to do. There's an episode of Sailor Moon where there's a Sailor V comic artist, and they're having their work critiqued, and he's told that he needs to make Sailor V's legs like an inch longer. And so I would make all of my legs on my characters really, really long. I'm not sure why I've drawn such incredibly small feet though. I don't know. I also could not draw hands to save my life, so I would always find ways to hide them rather than just practice them because I was a lazy kid. When I would draw my own creations, I would be totally surprised by the outcome and totally love them and think they were great, even though looking back they were terrible. But I was only 9 or 10, so I guess I give myself a break. This picture was the first time I ever did shading on a picture, and it was my pride and joy for ages. I was just so happy with myself, even though the face was terrible. It was like I just unlocked the next level of art. These are the characters I made up. I decided when I was 12 that I was going to be a manga artist, and to do that I was going to need my own story. So I started making lots of drawings of Setsuna and these other characters with all made up Japanese sounding names, because obviously I was going to move to Japan to do all of this. It's been 13 years later and I'm still waiting for that to happen. On the plus side, it did mean that I started creating my own pictures again, so I started having to learn to draw and like try new things, although I was still really heavily reliant on reference pictures, and some of them are like practically just rip-offs with different hair. I always wish I'd worked harder learning to draw scenery to give my pictures more depth, but I'd usually just leave them totally blank, or I would do weird things like this, which reminds me of the Teletubbies with that weird baby face Sun used to have. I've just noticed also how all the faces are turned to the side and like a profile shot. It's like no wonder they look all weird like this when I draw them like 3/4 or head on. I just hadn't got any practice at it. And this is where I started getting into Yu-Gi-Oh! And I loved this card. This and Reborn the Monster. Oh, there we go. I've combined them together. I was the same with the cards from Cardcaptor Sakura. I used to just love the artwork on the actual cards. For this picture I drew was Kirsty, me and Roz. It's probably another mostly plagiarised image, but they were like my best friends, so I just immortalised them in terrible tween artwork. Oh, this was Buffy! My friend Roz, like I mentioned she got me into Buffy when I was 12 and I became obsessed with it. I even got this like long black cardigan because I totally thought it would make me look more like Buffy, even though I never remember her actually wearing a long black cardigan or coat or anything. I was just a very odd child. I think a lot of these after just plunge really hardcore back into Sailor Moon, but again, a lot of it was just copying, which doesn't teach you much except really getting to memorise the exact outfits of all the scouts. I did, however, get really good at copying things. I remember my teacher, Miss Havis, telling me that I would have been like a master forger, and I was like horrified and delighted at the same time. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad I kept them, and I will always be where I started when I was learning to draw. But I just don't recommend anyone who is young and wants to draw, I just don't recommend just copying your favourite pictures. By all means, use them as like a reference when you make something of your own, because you're not always going to be able to just imagine what a hand looks like in a certain position. So find a reference for that, save pictures that inspire you, and really figure out what it is about them that inspires you, whether that's the colours or the detail or just the subject matter, and then go out and make your own art, make your own stories and characters, and don't be afraid to draw what you love either. There'll always be people who tell you that you need to draw different things, like you should draw more landscapes, or you should draw more men or more animals. And while I think it's wise to always take the advice to try more things, remember that you're doing your art for you. You do your art because it makes you happy. Don't be afraid to just try new mediums, break out those colours, or try something huge, but don't feel forced. There are always going to be people who somehow take offence to the way you do your art and offer you criticism when you don't ask for it, but those people don't matter. The best advice I can give to you though is to make sure you save all of your art, because it's just so nice to look back and walk down memory lane occasionally. And that's it really. Everything I drew up until I was 13, but that's all for me. So if you'd like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like, you can also subscribe to my channel, it goes a long way. And most of all, thank you for watching, and see you again soon.